When people hear of HIV, they immediately think of that terminal disease that has no cure and has killed millions of people, including the legendary Fela. For me, it's what I fear the most. First identified in 1981, HIV is a type of virus that attacks the body's ability to fight infection. It finds white blood cells, gets inside those white blood cells, and makes copies of itself. It then kills the white blood cells, and the new copies find other white blood cells to attack, thereby killing the immune system cells that helps the body fight infection. As a result, other types of infections take advantage of the body's inability to defend itself. I'm sure none of this information is new. Everybody already knew a thing or two about HIV and AIDS, so you understand my fear. It's perfectly normal for me to be skeptical around my barbers and my partners, especially my barbers. So I test whenever I can, wherever I can. Sometimes at the hospital, I used to do that at the hospital before, but I don't like needles. So I started doing them at home once I discovered those self-test kits. The thing is, anytime I feel exposed, I test. I don't know where this cut came from. Test. I don't know you and some things happened. Test. I just came back from the barber shop. Maybe I got a cut somewhere. Am I paranoid? Maybe. Yes, I'm very paranoid. That's why I was shocked to see that only 3.8% of males and 4% of females have ever tested for HIV among teens in Nigeria. And because they are teens, we can presume that they are reckless, they share sharp objects, and some even have unprotected intercourse. Some of you might be thinking that that's not the only means of contacting HIV. I know, you're right. We're also missing the point. The point is that 95% of teenagers within the age of 15 to 19 have never tested for their HIV status. That's a huge percentage given that these kits are available in hospitals and pharmacies nationwide, and they are pretty easy to use. Let me show you. First, you open the pack, you bring out the contents, then you open the pouch, then you bring out the tube and pop the cap, then you place the tube in the stand, bring out the test device, you swap the device along your upper and lower gum, and you place the device inside the tube and wait for 20 minutes. See? Very easy. Back to my dilemma. The thing is, young people not being interested in checking their HIV status got me interested in their disinterest. So I went to meet the only person I know who knows a lot, if not everything, about HIV. Let's go. Why don't people like testing?
I don't know. Testing for what?
Why don't people like testing for HIV?
This is it. There are several reasons why many people don't test for HIV. For one, there are many people who are not aware that these kits exist in the first place. According to a research paper I read last year, about 95% of the participants did not know about HIV test. And two, there's the place of people worrying about its accuracy. The HIV test kits are by design very easy to use, and it's very fast as well. So people worry that how can something be so easy and so fast yet accurate. According to another research paper that I read last year, the oral test kit has about 93% sensitivity and 99% specificity in lay terms. If you wrote an exam today and you scored 93% in one subject and 99% in another subject, I think you've passed. The cost of getting a HIV self-test kit is a strong determinant in whether people are getting it or not. And I have another paper to back this up. At the moment, HIV self-test kits cost between 1,500 naira and 4,500 naira in private pharmacy stores. You'd agree with me that most people between the ages of 15 and 19 can't afford this. If awareness, accuracy, and price are some of the reasons why people don't use this, I'll dispute that. Here's why. Various health groups oftentimes collaborate with the health ministry to give out these kits for free. How do I know that, you may ask? I was part of one of the health groups that gave out these kits, and I saw that people were reluctant to collect them, so I spoke to my then president about it.
We have these kits available, but we don't have people to come and pick them up. We don't have people who come here for tests. I'm Dr. Okonkwo Eketu Christian. Many people believe that once they are diagnosed of HIV, it is the end for them. Fear of stigmatization. That's the first thing.
Stigma. It makes sense now. It's the reason why I was afraid of the virus in the first place. It's also the reason behind so many government campaigns.
I discovered that HIV/AIDS is still very prevalent in Nigeria. These statistics are alarming, embarrassing, and unacceptable.
Stigma and discrimination against people living with HIV remains a major stumbling block in the country's fight against the pandemic.
I told my pastor about my status, that I'm HIV positive, that I need a prayer. So he prayed for me. All of a sudden, in that same church, I noticed that some of their members are no more coming closer to me.
There are many stories of people getting abandoned by their friends, families, and communities. And since nobody wants to be abandoned, nobody wants to have the virus, so nobody wants to check even if they have the virus. Let's talk stigma. HIV-related stigma is a social phenomenon whereby a person is considered to possess a discrediting attribute, such as having the virus, and thus they are deemed tainted, flawed, or spoiled by others. This occurs at various social levels and can be categorized into various types, such as internalized stigma, where a person believes that they are bad or at fault for having the virus. Enacted stigma, where a person experiences stigma from other people because they are known to have the virus. Now, this may not be mean people just being mean. It can also be manifested in ways such as awkward social interactions and being too kind to victims. Nobody likes being pitied. The third is perceived stigma. This is a person's perception of how stigmatized people are being treated. Anticipated stigma. This is when a person anticipates or expects discrimination from people. Associated stigma. This is experienced by others such as the family members or healthcare workers, and it is due to them being in close proximity to those that have the virus. The people in this category are guilty by association, and they in turn manifest their own stigma on the victims by 1. Advising them to conceal their HIV status, 2. by avoiding them, or 3. by being extra kind. Again, nobody likes to be pitied. It can also manifest in healthcare settings such as awkward social interactions. A research carried out in northern Nigeria showed that primary healthcare workers had fear of casual transmissions, they exhibited shame and blame, and they reported observing discrimination against people living with HIV and AIDS by other health workers in their facilities. So basically they snitched on each other. From the definition of the different types of stigma, the effects of HIV stigma in communities were examined, and it was discovered that perceived stigma leads to internalized stigma, which in turn leads to anticipated stigma, which leads to lower adherence to medication. This means that people living with HIV may internalize stigma and anticipate stigmatizing situations, resulting in psychological distress, which can reduce a patient's quality of life. Not only can psychological distress reduce a patient's quality of life, it can also affect the ability to understand information, hence the ability to make informed choices regarding future treatment options, and this will result in patients avoiding future medical checkups and observations. Let me stop here. I'm tired. I'm very tired. The thing is, all I wanted was to find out why people don't use these kits, and turns out it was answered very early on in the video, but it wouldn't make sense if this was a 1-minute video. So I just went on a tangent, and my tangent kept having tangents, and now I'm tired. Yeah, it was supposed to be like simple and straightforward. The reason why people don't use this is
there are many people who are not aware that these kits exist in the first place.
Some are not being informed of kits like this, because this is my first time also of seeing a kit like this.
Some people know about this, many others don't know about this.
See, people don't know that these kits exist, so tell them.